I have airplane mode on.
All right. Well, I think we're all ready to go. I think we're live here.
Okay.
Hey guys, if you are hanging out in the chat watching us live, could you just pop a comment in and let us know if you can hear us and see the painting all right, just so we know that we've got everything working right
It's a
on
little
our
rusty.
end.
It's been a couple of weeks.
I know, it has been. So we're super excited to hang out with you guys today. It's been way too long, and yeah, we're going to talk about ways that we can fix our painting mistakes, because we all have painting mistakes, and sometimes we just want to throw our painting away, but oftentimes all you need is to take a break and you can fix them. This video is brought to us, brought to you, brought to everybody, brought to the world by jerrysautorama.com. I'll be using Turner watercolors, which are one of their house brands that are very inexpensive and high quality. And I'm also going to be using the Mimic Squirrel brushes. They hold tons of paint, tons of water, very thirsty brush, and they're completely synthetic, so you can use them without worrying about our furry little friends, which I think is wonderful. All the supplies I used and the colors that I'm using are listed in the video description. So can everyone hear us out
Yeah, people can hear and see.
Awesome.
And I'd like to apologize. I'm getting over a small chest cold, so you might hear me cough, and I might talk with a cough drop in my mouth, so my apologies. I know it's not professional.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
Some Ricola.
It's Casual Friday.
Yeah, right. Well, I do have my plaid shirt on.
Well, there you go.
Well, one of my many plaid shirts.
Awesome. I got my hair in pigtails. I don't have any makeup on. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah.
We're going to start by sketching out this this design here, and I did take a couple of photos of my flowers that I'm working from. They're on my website. The link is in the video description as well if you want to see. I'm going to set that aside though, and we're going to draw on the lilies because they're kind of our focal point. I got some flower crumbs there. I'm going to start with a circle here. Okay, I'm going to just draw it really light so that I don't scribe my paper, and an oval up here. And this oval, these lilies are kind of trumpet shaped, so I'm doing a little circle down here, and then I'm going to connect the circles, connect my ovals. So I've got what looks like a megaphone here, and that's where we're going to build our iris that's tipped away from us, and then the circle here where we're going to see more of a front-facing iris. So, lily, I mean. So we're going to, oh, we are rusty.
Yeah,
Holy
we
moly.
Are. Well, and everything's starting to green up and bloom, so we're all very excited about flowers.
Yes, yes, and spring, and it's sunny out today, which is so nice. So I'm going to start with this petal here, which is kind of folded over, and we're seeing the middle of it kind of folded, and it's going to kind of come into like a little heart shape just beyond the edge or the rim of our circle. Okay, and then I wanted, when you're looking at a lily, they have 3 fat petals and 3 skinny petals. So we're going to get these fat petals in first. So our next one is going to fall over here. It's going to go right down to the middle of the flower. And then it's going to flatten up there because it's curved under and we're not going to see the other side of that. And then we're going to do this other one over here. That we could probably see the ends of that one though. Just like that. And then we're going to do this one over here, which is just kind of hanging out to the side. And we're going to do this one here that's just kind of wrapping around. It'll be hidden behind another flower, but we'll get that shape in there anyway. And then we've got this final little skinny one up here. And we're not going to bother with the stamens at this point, but that's kind of just our basic shape for that flower. It looks a little funky, but it'll work out, don't worry. Now over here, we're going to do, start with that front petal again. And this time it's almost just kind of like a triangle. And I also have a photo of the finished flower up on my website if you want to check that out. And then we've got this one here. It's just curving around. And since a petal is kind of folded over on itself, you're going to see the underside there and the curved over part there. Now over here we've got this guy that's curving around. You see a little bit of the outside of the petal and the inside. And we're going to get this fat one over here that's just folded over. So that's pretty easy. This fat one over here that's just folded over. And then the one in the middle that's just gonna fold over as well. And again, not worrying about the stamens. So let's pull our stem bit down there. Let's figure out where our stem from there is coming from. And then we're just gonna put in this another little vine of foliage. I'm just kind of drawing some random clusters where we're going to paint some flowers. I don't feel like I really need much more than that. I think I'm going to move my bud. If you look at this, the original one, I put a little bud there. I think I actually maybe want a little bud over there because the way this is balancing out, it feels like I need to move that. So I'm just going to put that bud right there.
Stefan OK Bush.
Hey, Steph?
Is asking regular pencil or watercolor pencil?
Regular pencil. We're going to wet our background and do a wash, and if we use the watercolor pencil, we'd lose our whole drawing. So I'm just going to go in and refine a little bit. Let me shorten that one up a little bit. If you're going to erase, I don't even know if I have a good eraser here, but use like use a soft like white eraser rather than the eraser on the back of your pencil, because that will damage your paper. You're better off not even to try erasing. If that's all you have, you're better off to leave your lines. And I actually don't mind the look of pencil on my paper. That's it's a personal choice, but I actually like it. All right, I think that's really all I need. And if I had an eraser, so if you have an eraser, if I had one in my hand, I would erase the lines I don't need. Since I don't, I'm just gonna move along. I'm gonna wet my paper with a nice thirsty brush. This is a 2-inch Mimic squirrel, and actually all the Mimics that I have of the squirrel line are from the intro set, so that is a pretty good value if you don't know what to get. That's a wonderful set to start with. I really don't feel like I need any of the other ones after having that set, but if you have favorites, then you can always buy them individually. Alright, so you can see how quickly that wets the paper. I really like that. Now, you can paint your background in with this. I'm going to switch to a round just because I can get in my wells and my palette better. I'm going to start with a little yellow ochre. Now, if you're ever painting and your paint doesn't want to hop out of the palette, what you can do is actually spray your palette with just like, I just recycle spray bottles. I clean them out and I put water in them, and then just spray your palette a few minutes before you start painting, and it will make your paint nice and fresh. It's really great if you're using a student quality paint too, because sometimes they tend to dry and it's really hard to get the color out because they just don't have as high of a pigment load. And I'm going to grab some ultramarine blue. Now mix it out in your palette before you put it on your paper. That way you'll know you don't have any big gobs that are going to give you any trouble. Our background is going to be fairly light. You can go right over the flowers because these colors we're using are sedimentary, which means they kind of sit on top of the paper instead of absorbing in, so they're very easy to lift out in the future if you need to. So you can go right over your flowers and not worry about them. And you can see how the yellow ochre and the ultramarine kind of gray each other out, so it just gives you a nice neutral color. And then some sap green.
Gracie Shack 1.
Hi, Gracie.
What watercolor crayons would you recommend a beginner to buy?
It depends on what you can get for a price, but I find that the Caran d'Ache is my favorite, but the Lyra is less expensive but pretty darn good, so either of those.
Kathleen Townsend. Lindsay would love a tutorial on how to sketch out block photos to prep our paintings, maybe?
Sketch out block photos.
I'm assuming if you're drawing from a photo, sketching it or blocking it onto the paper. I'm thinking that's what she means.
Okay, well, you know what I would do is actually sketch it on a piece of like copy paper, and then I would transfer that on. That way, if your painting doesn't come out, you have the sketch to use again, and you don't have to redo the work. Now, what I just did there was I dried my brush off and set it in any puddles of paint so I could lift up the extra. I want to add a little more texture to the background too, so I'm actually going to flick on some color. And that might add some more puddles that I have to deal with, or I might like to leave it that way. So I'm just going to flick in a few colors. This just adds texture. It's not really going to look like anything when we're done. It's just to give it a little bit of interest. And the paint will dry lighter. I think I'm going to add a little brown too. I know I'm going to want burnt sienna in here, so I'll add a little brown. And then any places where I think I'm going to want to paint brightly, I can go in and blot. So I can blot off of the flower areas if I have some big, really colorful area that I think might be tough to cover.
Blot, not rub.
That's right. We never want to rub our paper. That damages it.
Gracious Maze Nougers would like some tips on painting white flowers.
Well, when you're painting white flowers, it's really, your background is super important because that's what's going to give you the contrast. And it's also very important that you really look at the colors that you're seeing in the shadows of the flowers and almost exaggerate them. So if you're seeing like, oh yeah, just a really pale blue shadow, exaggerate that. Make it a nice turquoise. If you're seeing a pale, pink, just exaggerate those colors, because otherwise it's going to look a little flat and boring. And then make sure your backgrounds are rich and colorful so that they can really stand out.
Trisha Sunderland, I've been looking to upgrade my watercolor brushes. Any suggestions?
Sure, I have a couple suggestions, and I'll explain that while I dry this. Hopefully it's not too loud. I can move the mic over a little bit, hopefully. For watercolor brushes, I would recommend the Royal & Langnickel Aqualon if you want a stiffer synthetic brush. And they have clear handles, so they're really great for if you forget to take your brush out of the water and you leave it overnight, or just for scraping details into your paintings. And it's just they're just nice. I really like them. I also like the Mimic Kolinsky and the Mimic Squirrel. Those are completely synthetic natural hair brushes that are wonderful, and they're linked in the video description. And also Princeton makes a line called Neptune that I really love. Now, if you're an absolute beginner and you have a hard time controlling the amount of water on your paper and on your brush, then you should probably stick with the Aqualons or another just standard synthetic brush, because the faux animal hair ones will hold tons of water, and it may be a little more than you're ready to deal with at the moment. But those are all really good bets. You can't go wrong. Also, Royal & Langnickel makes a line called Majestic that is really nice, like the Aqualons.
Gracie Shack, are there such things as watercolor canvases?
Yes, Fredericks makes watercolor canvas, and it's actually a primed canvas material that you can stretch and paint on. You can buy watercolor ground and make your own, or Prima actually has some watercolor canvases, but they're paper and the quality isn't that great on those, so I wouldn't recommend those. They're cheaper, but they're just paper over a cardboard box practically, so I really wouldn't recommend those for any real work of art. Actually, I did have one back here. I don't know what happened to it, but I could have shown you one because I do have one around here.
Solera. Hi Lindsay, have you tried Dr. P.H. Martin's liquid watercolors? If so, what do you think of them?
I haven't tried their watercolors. I've been meaning to. It's just I have some student grade liquid watercolors that I use. I do have the P.H. Martin Bombay inks, and I really like those. So it's on my list. I just never seem to remember it when I'm in the store, I guess. Okay, our background is dry. And if you notice up here in the corner, those are the blooms that I was telling you about. So basically there was a puddle of water that dried slower than the rest of the paper, and that's where you get those ruffled edges from. So when you blot out your puddles, it kind of avoids those, but apparently I missed a couple. But I just wanted to show you that so that you know what they look like. When we're working on our flowers, we're going to mix up a nice purple color, and we're going to skip around so that our colors don't just blend all together. We're going to take some either rose red or magenta, whatever you have for a pinky red, and we are going to add some ultramarine blue to it. Get a nice kind of like a plum. Well, no, it's a little pinkier than a plum, kind of just like a fuchsia purpley color. And then I'm going to show you a different technique for doing the petals for blending than I usually do. We're not going to wet the petal first. We're actually going to pick up our pigment, and this is a number 8 Mimic Squirrel, and I'm going to add this into the darkest areas of my paper. Be careful of the bead of water. If you get that bead on the ferrule, pick it up before it causes trouble. And I'm just going to kind of get the edges here where it's a little bit darker.
Art by Nino. You are not afraid of throwing those colors on there. How do you prevent mud when you're doing quick ones like this?
Work with colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. That generally will prevent mud from happening. Now after I lay down the color, I'm going to go in with a wet brush and I'm going to paint in the rest of the area with water, and then I'm just going to kind of run my brush, the tip of it, up to the edge of the pigment, and that way it can help it just kind of gently guide it through, so you get some variation of color, but you do get that strong contrast on the edge. I'm just going to tip it so it's not shiny, so you can see that pretty well there, and it helps us sharpen up our edges because they're kind of rough where the background dried. So we're going to do that same technique again, just making sure I have plenty of color mixed up here. And we'll go over to this one.
We have several people who are recommending the PH Martins
Oh,
Radiant
good.
and Hydras. So
Now one is light fast and one isn't. I'm thinking the Hydras is light fast and the Radiance isn't. If anybody wants to.
okay, yeah, we've had several people speak up and love their PH Martins. Starshine Soldier, do you recommend the Prima flat water brushes?
I don't actually. I just got a set to try, and I like their round ones an awful lot. But the flat ones, just and I've had other flat water brushes, and I've never been happy with a flat water brush. They just don't seem to have the control, and they're just not as useful. If you're like traveling, your most useful brush is going to be a round brush. And so usually if you're using water brushes, you're using them because you want the convenience of being able to travel with them. So for me, they didn't give you very much control, and they were just they didn't feel like they were high quality. But I find that to be with all flat water brushes I've tried. So nothing against Prima. I wouldn't recommend buying them over just buying a regular brush.
Kathleen Townsend, Lindsay, do you ever stretch your paper before painting? And then in parentheses, stretch in water.
Yes, but not for like quick paintings like this. If I was going to stretch a painting, it would be for something that I'm going to spend a lot of time on. And I do have a tutorial on how to stretch your paper if you have no idea what we're talking about. It's basically you soak your paper and you lay it out on a wooden board, and you tape it down with gum tape, and as it dries, it gets really tight. And then when it's perfectly dry, it's kind of like a drum. It's so tight. And then you can paint on that, and it won't wrinkle at all. And then you let it dry, and you cut it off, and your paper will be perfectly flat. I feel like I have a little too much water here, so I'm just going to blot my brush and drink up some of the excess. And I'm going to add some more paint to my mixing puddle there because I don't want to have that problem again. So there's a quick fix. Instead of forcing your way through when you know you've got way too much water in your paint, you just stop, clean your brush off, and try again.
Gracie Shack 1, what is the color called that you are doing the lily petals with?
I'm using a rose red or magenta and ultramarine blue mix. Another tip is not to push your paint. Always approach your painting comfortably, so turning it so that you can have your tip of the brush next to the pigment, next to your edge, is going to be a lot nicer to try to control than trying to, push against the bristles of your brush.
Jennifer Hopping, I know you aren't a big fan of masking fluid, but have you ever tried watercolor pouring? Would love to see a tutorial. I don't know what watercolor pouring is.
Oh, it's when you pour your paint instead of paint with that. I have done it before, and that's what I use liquid watercolors for. But usually as a beginning to mixed media art. I haven't done it in years, though. I guess probably because I haven't worked in any really large watercolors in a long time. Tend to work a lot larger before I had kids.
Solara says the Hydras is light fast.
Thank you. Got a bead of water there. Got to blot that off. And so this is the back side of that petal. I really don't want to do too much to it yet, but I think I will soften some of the line out a little bit there. But I'm going to be going in with some green in the middle, so I just want to make sure that I'm not going to cover the area with purple, that I'm going to want the yellowy green, because it's just going to make a muddy mess. So that's why I'm not doing as much to that petal as other ones. And I'm going to go back over here because those two appear to be dry, and I can't really work on any of these without it touching another petal that's wet. So we're going to skip back over here and keep doing the same technique, but I am going to speed it up a little bit because I don't want this to take all day, and you've seen me do a few petals fairly slow. And in fact, what I'd often do would just be skip around and do a couple and then blend them. Lay down the color, then blend them all at once.
Diana Trout, excuse me.
Oh, hey, Diana. I watched her live stream yesterday.
Oh, did you?
I
Research, pH bar and hydrous are light fast, radiance are fugitive.
Thank you. And she's a pro. She would know.
And our moderator's doing a good job. Apparently they deleted some horrible, rude comment.
Oh, people. Oh, yeah, I made a bunch of people. I had a call from moderators last week when I did my little impromptu live. Like, is there anybody here?
Well, I noticed that there were a couple of people that were moderators. Like, I didn't know they were. And then I figured you probably moderated them for last week when you did your show.
Yep. If anyone talks about politics or boobies, you're out of here.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Just be negative.
Yeah. Don't poop on our party. Now, the risk you run about waiting too long to blend is that you might get some hard edges because magenta is a staining color, so you'll see that some of that pink might grab the paper if you're not quick enough to blend it. It's not a big deal, though, with the techniques we're going to do today, but just something to consider. If you're using a really, really vivid color, they tend to be the staining colors. Did we have a question?
Yes. Scottish Bloom, have you seen Color in Your Life?
Oh, I think I have. I think it's a YouTube channel that does like documentaries on artists, I think.
I was gonna say, I haven't heard of it.
I think so. I think he's in like Australian person.
Catherine Claremont, is there a traceable?
No, there isn't. But I did show you how to draw it at the beginning, and I'm sure you guys all can handle it. I have faith in you.
Maura Robinson, can I use computer paper to try this? We do not have an art shop in our town.
It's good. You're gonna have a hard time doing this with watercolors on the computer paper, but when we get to the colored pencils portion in the fixing area, you can use colored pencil on computer paper. If you can get your hands on some cardstock, it might work a little bit better, or something a little bit thicker, just because the water is gonna pill on a regular paper.
Colored pencil reviews. The most notable thing that I have noticed since becoming interested in art after becoming disabled during combat in the British Army is just how amazing, friendly, and wonderfully welcoming everyone within the art community is. I can't tell you how much people in art community have helped me. I'm saying this because of the rude comment placed in the comments by some clown.
Oh. There's always part of me that wonders what they say, you know?
Yeah. I'm kind of like, I didn't see it. I was behind staying caught up on the questions. I'm sure it was something terrible, though.
All right. I'm going to go in with some sap green just on its own, right on the edge of the stems here. And on the edge of the bud. And I'm going to go ahead and put in just little segments of the bud.
Mr. Sanjay Seth, Lindsay, can you repeat what you said about the staining colors?
The colors that look more vivid, like magenta, turquoise, anything like that, those are going to be the more vivid looking colors are the ones that tend to sink into the paper and stain, so you just have to be a lot quicker to blend, or just, expect that they're not going to lift out as well as other colors like yellow ochre and burnt sienna and the duller of the colors. So that's pretty much it. I just mixed a little bit of, I think it's permanent yellow, isn't it? Yeah, permanent yellow. You can use CAD yellow medium or CAD yellow light. And I'm just kind of putting it next to the green and letting them mix and mingle right on the paper. And I'm actually going to pull some of this color up into the lily trumpet area that you can see here. I think the YouTube art community is quite welcoming.
Obviously aside from the occasional trolls, everyone's always been super friendly, very nice. very helpful. You know, people here, if we're a little behind on questions, they'll answer the question, you know, for you. If they know the answer, tell them where to go or where they get their stuff. And it, you know, it always seems like on your Facebook page too, you know, people are very supportive when they share their art, you know, which can be pretty scary to like put up a piece of your art.
Totally,
for people to look at.
For criticism.
Yeah.
I'm taking a little ultramarine blue and more blue than pink, so we're using those same colors, but we're getting more of a purple. And I'm going to start dabbing in some flowers over here. And really, they are just dabs, so try not to get too worked up over it. And you can vary how much, how purple or how blue it is just by adding more magenta or more blue to your mix. And don't worry if you end up with big blobs, because I'm going to fix, that's going to be one of the fixes that we're going to do, is how to fix a big blobby mess. So.
Catherine 324211, what is the difference between urban sketching and plein air?
Just doing it in the city versus the country. It's basically the same thing. Then I'm going to connect these kind of blobby mess with a little bit of green. You know what? I think I'm actually going to hold off on that for a minute. I'm going to take a little, just to give that a second to dry out. I am going to blot that brown that I have happening there, where I painted over the wet stem. I knew I wanted this flower in front. I'm going to paint over that, and I am going to go back in with the blue first. But I'm going to put some vines going on in there to help direct the eye through the painting and add a little bit of interest. So we're going to mix up some burnt sienna and a little bit of ultramarine blue for our shadow. Ultramarine blue is a pretty magical color. You know, we're using it to make our purple. We're using it to make our dark brown. And let's see. I think I'm just going to a wiggly, branchy line. I'm just twisting my brush and letting it do its thing. So I get some thick and thin pieces. I don't know. Do you know what this is, Sarah? In this branch, if you look at my website, you can see a photo. It's pretty. It's like this is kind of like grapevine-y looking thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to say it's like similar to dogwood, but I don't. It might be, but I don't think it is. I don't think dogwood gets so curly.
It doesn't have any flowers on it either. It's just kind of.
Well, dogwood. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure there's a name for it, but I can't tell you what it is.
Now to highlight those branches, we'll use yellow ochre with some burnt sienna.
Jacqueline says hi. She caught your live today because she's homesick with the crud.
Oh no.
Jacqueline Stevens.
Oh, thank you for Jacqueline. She even sent me some sparkle pens. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Ooh,
I just got those. They haven't even made it to my studio yet. They're sitting on my pool table.
Nice.
Can't wait to play with them though.
Kel Sooth. I know you can't use watercolor on canvas, but can you use ink tents?
Ink tents they're like a watercolor pencil. They're not technically watercolor, but for all intents and purposes, they're a water-soluble pencil that is permanent when dry, but I think you need it on a porous surface. So if you had raw canvas, yes, I've used them on raw canvas. Primed canvas, it's going to scrub off if you get it wet, because it doesn't have the binding properties. It'll bind to paper or to untreated fabric permanently, but primed canvas, you're going to want use like a watercolor ground or watercolor canvas. You can get Frederick's watercolor canvas, and that works all right. It's not really my cup of tea. I've used it. I have a pad of it. It's, you know, if you really want to paint on a canvas, I actually prefer the ampersand canvas watercolor panels if you want like a canvas-like medium. But I definitely prefer paper for watercolor. This is just a more intense mix of the ultramarine and burnt sienna.
Teresa Gonzalez, doesn't Bristol paper's texture interfere with the way the watercolors move?
Well, Bristol you can get Bristol in a couple different smoothness. You can get smooth and you can get vellum. but they're both fairly smooth. I don't typically use watercolor on Bristol though. You can. It's just like it's a paper. It's a wood-based paper instead of a cotton-based paper. I'd be more likely to slide around. Excuse me, I think because of the smoothness. I'm gonna go in and oh look, we've got some blooms in there from where I had some puddles of water. I kind of like the look of that. Yeah, I kind of like the look of it though. Oh, this one I've already started to wet, so we'll do it the other way we usually paint the flowers. We'll wet the petal and just drip in the color. Not a big deal.
Gracie Shack 1, how do you deal with negative people? About tutorials, I would find that hard because I'm a beginner at art, and some folks are just rude.
Oh, I almost did a rant on that. I was very bothered by somebody's comment this week. And then one of my lovely fans stood up to this person.
Really?
And then this person came back and called both the fan and I narcissists because we can't take criticism.
Okay, well, there's criticism, and then there's just saying bad, mean things about people.
Oh. Yep.
Some people don't know the difference.
Yeah.
Or don't care that there is a difference.
Yeah, it was quite a comment.
Okay, Pear Berry. Lindsay, I had a problem recently where I layered a thick layer of a mix of permanent carmine and cadmium red light, and the paint dried tacky. It's still tacky over a week later, and this never happened before for me. Have you ever experienced this?
I've had that happen on Yupo paper, which is a synthetic paper. That's the only time I think I've had that happen. You could spray your work with a fixative, and that will, or a dulling spray, and that will, they'll take care of that.
Take note, people. She's telling you to use a fixative.
I know. Well, hey, the theme of this story is our last ditch efforts to save something from lining the bird cage. So yeah. Now I'm going to put the stem in here because I think that's probably dried up enough to do that. And I'm going to do sap green and the permanent yellow. Just use whatever yellow you've been using up until this point. If you've been using lemon, use lemon. If you've been using cadmium, use cadmium. Use whatever is your closer color. We're just dabbing this in here. I have no idea what these flowers are. I've only managed to have like one strand of them left. It hasn't keeled over.
Oh, is it assortment from assorted arrangements?
Yes. So, yeah, I saved some flowers and got rid of the rest and put it in a smaller vase and tried to extend their beauty.
Kelsuth, Lindsay, will you do another acrylic tutorial?
Yeah, actually. I tend to use acrylics more for like printmaking and like home decor stuff. I don't tend to like paint with acrylics. Truth be told, I don't really like painting with acrylics that much. I'm more likely to do an oil painting and say go ahead and use acrylics if you prefer, just because I personally don't like painting with acrylics all that much. I like painting with oils and watercolor, I think, because I can go back and rework stuff. It's not like I can always re-wet. In acrylics, it's kind of permanent, it seems like. I don't know. It doesn't seem to fit my personality.
You are a free spirit.
Yeah. Which is funny because Cinnamon Cooney, the art sharp, is a free spirit, and she does everything in acrylics, but I don't know. It's just not...
Well, she has some very whimsical paintings, though.
She is very whimsical.
So her whimsicalness is expressed in the art subject. I don't know. I'm gonna say I've had an overdose on cough drops.
Mentholated.
No, they're the Ricola, but this is
I
like
do
my
like the
fourth one
Ricola.
today.
Is it the lemon?
The
or
honey, yes, the honey,
herbal?
lemon, echinacea.
I'm glazing some
Stuff.
layers on these petals. Anywhere I see it darker, I'm just going in and adding. This is important. The paper's dry underneath where I'm adding this. Otherwise, you'd have some really fuzzy lines. So I'm doing a glaze, which just means it's a transparent layer over something else. Then I'm blotting the extra paint off and just kind of pulling it around to drag it around and soften it and blend it. And I'm trying to leave some areas like in the center of these flowers for the veining when I want to go in and do that later. So just kind of keep that in mind as you go. Refer to the photo on my blog, refer to the finished painting photo. And it should be a pretty good guide if you're kind of getting confused as to what we're doing here. I'm going to go over there and do some glazing. And you can move along much brisker after you've got that bottom layer dry, because you don't have to, you're not wetting the whole thing again, so you can keep moving around.
Benny Chavez, Lindsay,
Hi,
do you
Benny.
ever paint abstract? Was wondering your opinion about it.
I love abstract art. I rarely paint it. But I did some backdrops for my craft room because I wanted to be, I don't know, I have a lot of like random stuff in my craft room, and I'm a big believer in having stuff out where I can see it, but it's not very pretty on video. So I did these, I just took 3 pieces of foam core and some paint and just braided it around, and I really like the look of it. I want it to be kind of abstract and have a nice texture to it. So, I'll do stuff like that. I don't know. I think abstract is hard because you have to have this complete unique vision, or you just kind of play with materials and hope it comes out good. And it's easier, I think, to have a vision of something that's realistic in life. You have something to kind of anchor to. But I love abstract work.
Juliet, let's see, Sage, probably saying that last name wrong.
Oh.
How to layer with watercolors? Is it like with colored pencils?
Well, colored pencils, not really, because with colored pencils, your colors are more opaque, and with watercolors, your colors are more transparent. So, but with watercolors, you can keep going over and over and over again because it doesn't clog the tooth. However, it can make mud. So, I think doing a few layers with watercolors and then moving over to a colored pencil is, if you haven't achieved what you want to achieve, is a really excellent alternative, and that's what we're going to do today, because it's just a great way to save a painting.
Adriana Hernandez, Lindsay, which is your favorite color?
Quinacridone rose.
Quinacridone rose.
And sap green. I like them both. I don't know if I can pick.
Simply Cess, what watercolor brand would you recommend for a newbie like me?
Well, this set that I'm using is $29 for 18 colors. You really can't beat that as far as a professional quality paint. But if that's out of your price range, I would recommend Reeves. I believe actually it's made in the same factory as Winsor & Newton. That's what a distributor told me once. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I was told by somebody that should know what they're talking about. But I use those with my students because, for one thing, they're not toxic, so I don't have to worry that they're going to go home and be painting and dip their paintbrush in their coffee or tea or soda or whatever and get sick. So that's another really fine choice. Royal Langnickel makes nice paints. I'm pretty sure they're non-toxic. I just know Reeves are non-toxic. So for a newbie that might not have the best, if you're not as careful in the studio because you haven't had that much practice or training, it's nice to have something non-toxic. And do a little something to this petal back here.
Ian Jackson, are you going to have a go at Sumi painting?
I've done a little bit of it, but I kind of feel a little like a fraud because that's something that, these masters in Japan, and I think it's all in Japan, they just practice for years and years to get good at. So I don't know, I feel a little like unqualified, I guess, to do that.
That sounds like one of those things you would need to have someone show you how to do it.
Yeah, instead of just like faking
properly.
Yeah. So I don't know. I always feel a little, I think it's I like using the materials for Sumi painting, but I do feel a little bit like you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be here. Is anybody watching the Hulu show, the one about Kennedy there, the Stephen King?
Oh, 11,
22, 63 or something.
63.
Yeah, you shouldn't be here.
I'm not watching
Future Man.
it. I did read the book.
You know what? I listened to the audiobook and I can't remember how it ends. And I've got one episode to go, but it's diverged so much from the book so far, so it doesn't really matter. But I can't remember how that darn thing ends. I feel so bad. It's like I listened to, I don't know, was it 3 weeks worth of audiobooks or something?
Yeah, but when did you listen to it?
I don't know. It hasn't been out that long.
Well.
Okay. Oh, and something else I want to do, but I think we're gonna wait to the end to do it, just because that's how I did it originally in this picture. Are these kind of little like chrysanthemum, like spiky little fluffy flowers there. I don't want to put them in quite yet. So now what we're going to do is some fixing items. So if I look at this, it just doesn't look done. Oh, I haven't put the stamens in yet. I suppose I could paint those in. And at this stage yesterday, I've maybe gotten a little bit further. I was about ready to toss the painting. So let's get our stamens in just so I can have that. I'm going to lift out just some area for that.
Declan Adams. I have an art exam next week. I am limited to 10 hours. I'm a very slow painter, but I need to get my painting done in the 10 hours. What tips do you have when painting quickly under exam conditions?
I would practice beforehand so you're not going in cold. And something I used to always do is time sketches. So you set your timer for like 30 seconds and you sketch something, and then you do a bunch of those 30-second sketches until you've gotten the comfortable with just not thinking about it and just kind of painting. That when we used to do like life classes, we would do that. So you'd have your model would pose in 30-second poses, and that would just kind of get you over the nervousness of painting a stranger, and you would kind of settle in and make a lot of good use of your time. So I would say before the exam, do some 30-second sketches, either in the campus before you go into your classroom, or just, try to find something that you can sketch quickly to get kind of over the heebie-jeebies there. Get in the groove. And I think I'll darken up the details here on the bud. I'm just going to use some sap green and a little bit of ultramarine. Darken it. I can do a little shadow with that color also just under the flower on the stem. Okay, so with transparent watercolors, we have the limitations of sometimes just ending up with a painting that's kind of blah. And this is where we can pull in some cheats. I used to be very stubborn, and if I got a painting done, because I would just stay with transparent watercolor, and if I didn't like it, then I would cut it into bookmarks or artist trading cards or whatever and give them away. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little more patient and a little less wanting to waste products. So I've come up with some ways to kind of rescue these paintings. So this is no longer going to be a transparent watercolor after we go through with these steps, but we're going to salvage our paintings. So what I'm going to do is squeeze out a little bit of white watercolor. Now this came in this kit of 18 colors, but I don't squeeze it in my palette because I just kind of save it for when I need a little bit of pop. So my first problem is this nondescript bunch of flowers here, and also the fact that my stamens are not white, and they are white in the flower. So I'm going to go in with my round brush, and first I'm going to do my stamens. So make sure your brush is clean. You want to take out excess water, but it does have to be a little bit damp so that the water can move. What are you giggling about back there?
Chewy, she's crammed herself.
Oh my gosh.
underneath this tiny little table, and every time she moves, the table goes with it. Sorry.
That's funny. Sarah's dog this 90-pound dog has wormed its way under this tiny...
75. She's 75 pounds. She's not 90.
Tiny little table.
Kel Sooth, if we paint one of your paintings and someone wants to buy it, is it okay for us to sell it?
That's fine with me. It won't be, always ask an artist beforehand, but I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Cheeky Bumcake.
Be sure to shop at one of my fine sponsors, such as Jerry's Autorama, with your newfound earnings.
Mm-hmm. And there's always a discount code for watching The Frugal Crafter.
That's right.
Cheeky Bumcake, do watercolors have a use-by date?
Nope. No, I mean, you could have, I've had watercolors that were like, somebody gave me a palette and it was their grandmother's and it was just full of paint and they were beautiful and they were like 30 years old.
Okay, come here, Chewy.
So I'm going to take some, so I just painted the stamens in with white and we're going to do more with that with the colored pencils in a bit. And I'm going to take, I'm going to wipe off the green off my pan of yellow ochre. Blue. I'm going to take some ultramarine blue and I'm going to mix it in with some of the white so that I get a opaque white. So it's kind of like gouache. So this technique would be definitely a gouache technique. Or this painting could be considered gouache at this stage once you start adding the opaque. And I am just going to add some roughly shapes into these flowers. And it's going to separate the petals and it's just going to make it look a little more interesting. And I can adjust how much blue, how much purple, how much white, and it's a purple that we mixed. We're not introducing any new colors. The only color we've introduced is white so far.
Colored pencil reviews. Lindsay, I'm pretty new to the art community, so please excuse me if you have been asked this question many times. Are you a self-taught artist or schooled? The stuff I've seen you create is amazing, and just wondered if it all comes from you or have you been taught?
Well, I didn't go to art school, but I had a neighbor who was a wonderful watercolorist who trained me from when I was 5 till when I was 13. So I used to say self-taught because you have so many influences. You take workshops, you
watch YouTube videos.
You watch YouTube videos. Yeah, I mean, nobody creates in a bubble, but I haven't gone to I didn't go to art school or anything.
Archia French, have you painted on the watercolor canvas yet? Someone gave me two. Oh, her name is pronounced Airc. Airc French, have you painted on the watercolor canvas yet?
She's probably talking about the Primo one because I did show that in a haul recently. Yes, I have. The painting came out all right. It's not a canvas. It's more like it's like a paper that's like, it reminds me of like a shoebox with like watercolor paper glued to it, like a shoebox lid. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure you can make your own. But it was fine. I wasn't crazy about the quality of the paper. It's a little bit better than what's in the Primo watercolor books. But it's not fabulous. So the Frederick's watercolor canvas is much higher quality, and Ampersand's canvas watercolor canvas panel is really good too. So if you are looking for something just because you want to have your painting to be hung without glass, I would investigate those two brands instead of the Prima ones. The Prima one I think is more just to make a little decorative, hobby decoration, more like collage on it, do a little spattering, nothing too intense. If you really want to paint on it, I would recommend one of the other brands. I'm not saying anything bad about Prima. I mean, it's cheap too. It's not very expensive, but it depends on what you're trying to do. Adding a little bit of yellowy green on top of the stamens there, and then I'm just going to dab in some burnt sienna plus ultramarine blue to be a nice dark end of the stamens. I don't know what you call that thing. What do you call these brown things?
I don't know. I'm sure there's a technical term.
There always is. There always is a technical term.
I don't remember 8th grade biology. 8th grade was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Ian Jackson, I wonder if you can spray PVE onto paper to get that Yopo feel, as it is a polyvinyl acetate.
Huh, like a glue, I wonder?
It says PVE.
PVE. You probably can. I know Kelly Donovan, she's a YouTuber, and she made a paper, and she basically just painted glue over her paper and her art journal, and I think used like alcohol inks on it or maybe acrylics or something, and it had a very similar look. So give it a try. What do you get to lose?
Yeah. Worst that's gonna happen is it won't work, and you can cut up and use it as a bookmark.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Gracie Shack 1.
Yep.
Would you recommend an adult coloring book? Never bought one since I was a kid.
Well, actually, I have a tutorial coming up this weekend on making your own. So if you want to sit tight and wait for that, you can. The Color It coloring books are nice. They have like really thick, glossy pages, which is good for markers. And actually, Jerry Zadarema has a bunch of coloring books. I just got it has an octopus on the front, and it's all like botanical, scientific illustrations in halftone, which are really pretty to color. If you like more sophisticated things like botanicals, which I think you do, Gracie, because I'm familiar with some of your work. She shares a lot of her work with me on Facebook. I love seeing it. So those are really great, great options. And there's Pepin Press, which has some really nice designs. I have not used their books yet, but I heard they're really good. All right, I'm going to start working on the lilies with colored pencils now, and I've got a little bit of a rant here. These are Prismacolor pencils, and Sarah saw my frustration because
there was some muttering. There was some muttering.
Yeah, so I have realized that with these pencils, because the lead is so soft, I've never dropped them. I don't know what happens in the factory before they get to me, but most of these are the USA made ones even. But I was having a really hard time with their leads breaking, and I found that if I use a steeper sharpener that has like a less of a point to it, like this one here, this Koh-i-Noor sharpener here, they don't tend to fall out. It seems to secure the leads a little bit better. You will have to sharpen more often, but it should keep the lead from falling out too much. I usually like the Koom pencil sharpener. I misplaced mine, but I think if I sharpened it out that long, they would break. So I was having, and you have to have a really sharp sharpener or they will split your casings. It was very frustrating for me. And now I've heard the quality has gone downhill even more because they're being made in Mexico, and like the leads won't be perfectly centered. Actually, that's not perfectly centered, and this is a USA made one. So you know, it's too bad because I love how soft the pencils are, but it's kind of a deal breaker when they break all the time.
For the price that they charge,
yes,
they
exactly,
are not inexpensive.
exactly.
Even using a coupon on a set, they're still not inexpensive.
Right. So this paint's a little wet here, so I'm just being careful not to lay my hand in it. So please excuse the awkward, holding. But I'm going through here, and I'm sharpening my lines, and I'm adding some softer shading. So I can get a nice sharp line with my pencil, but then I can loosen up on the pressure, just do little circles, and pull it out. And then I can get a lot more body to my petals, but it's not going to take you as long as like doing a regular colored pencil piece because you've got so much background in already. In fact, when I do colored pencil, I usually will start with a watercolor wash, or if I'm working with watercolor crayons or anything like that. I just realized these flowers really stink that I have. Oh, I was like trying to figure out, I'm like, what happened in here? Oh my gosh.
Carnations.
Yes, I have this bouquet.
Smelling.
Oh man, and I couldn't figure out like what stinks in here.
It's the carnations probably. Gracie Shack 1, which pastels would you recommend for someone on a budget?
Sargent Art makes a really nice quality student grade pastel. Chalk pastel, soft pastel. Faber-Castell has a student line which is lovely and fairly inexpensive. SMI makes a nice student grade set. I haven't tried the Soho ones. I have tried other brands in the Soho line, and they all seem to be pretty good because a lot of times they have like the bigger companies making that's one of the Jerry's brands. They have the bigger companies making their products, so they're, it's just private labeled, so you get a lot of bang for your buck there. But I haven't personally used them, so I'm kind of hesitant to recommend them yet. All right.
We keep trying to be comfortable underneath this little table.
Jeez.
Mylène Marguart, Lindsay, what is your favorite technique?
My favorite technique, I would think well, I don't know if it's my favorite. I really like it. It's super useful. It's a side loading technique, and we didn't actually use it today. But I really like it because you can add really soft shadows after you've painted something, and it just seems to really, it looks a lot more difficult and a lot fancier than it really is. And that's basically when you wet your paintbrush and you pick up color on one side of it, and then you just stroke it on your paper, and you end up with this nice soft blend. So now I'm going in with a brighter pink, and this is neon pink, and I'm just kind of glazing over, just with little circles over what I've already done, and bringing that color a little bit beyond where I've put my first color. And now I think I'm going to see what a little lavender might look like, kind of glazing over both of those colors. So you can mix with the colored pencils. Just kind of keep layering and glazing until you get just what you want.
Dianatti22, what is your favorite brand of watercolor?
I like the M Graham probably most, and that's what I use a lot. These turners that I'm using today are really nice. I like Core. I really can't pick one. There's so many really awesome ones.
Melissa, Lindsay, any new to the market or new to you art tools that you found recently that you enjoy? Any that have been hyped up that you really don't much care for?
Oh boy, let's see. Seems like I was just disgusted with something the other day. I can't remember what it was though.
Prismacolor? No.
No, that's an ongoing disgust. But I can laugh about it, so that's good. So now you can see the depth in this petal versus the other petal. See how it tends to curve now a little bit more, and you've got that nice more definition and just a nicer shape to it. Now something else you might want to use, you don't have to, but this is a blender pencil, and different companies make them. This is a Fine Tech. Prismacolor makes them. Pretty much any pencil that has, any company that makes colored pencils will have a blender. If not, you can buy one from another company, and they all work pretty well together. What it generally is just kind of like some clear wax with maybe like a little bit of grit in there, and it just helps you force the colors together without altering the colors. So, you know, if you did get your colors down and you wanted them lighter, you could do the same thing with a lighter shade of pencil. But if you don't want to change your colors, using a colorless blender is a really good option. There's also colorless blender markers. They don't work quite as well, and they get clogged pretty easily with your pencil. So just keep that in mind when you're working. Usually well, it just depends on what you want to do. I think if you wanted to dissolve your pencil rather than blend it, you're probably better off with like a little bit of paint thinner or baby oil or something.
Abby, the demigod from Wonderland.
That is a name. I like that.
Lindsay, do you do a lot of figure studies for flowers before you do your paintings?
Well, for the live shows I do, because I don't want to waste anybody's time, so I want to make sure I have the painting done beforehand and practiced. But generally, no. If I'm just painting for my own enjoyment, I generally don't. I generally just get right to it. But I've also been drawing and painting for many, many years. And I don't really do botanicals. Mine is more, they're more whimsical. And just get the highlight on the edge of that petal, and you get the nice turned leaf, and you can see you just get a lot more definition that way. So I'm going to go a little quicker now, guys, and we'll kind of zip through this a little bit, but it's the same thing. I just wanted to make sure I did the first few a little bit slower for you. And if you are painting along with me and if you need to catch up, you can always pause it. Pausing the video does not pause the live chat, so you can still, look up and see what your friends are chatting about. And then you can hit play when you're ready to resume. And, if you decide you wanted to be watching live again and you had paused it, all you have to do is hit the little live icon at the bottom of the screen, and it will zap you right wherever we are. So don't feel like you have to rush. This is recorded. It will be available afterwards. So there's no need to rush or feel rushed, but I am going to speed it up a little bit just so I can not waste any of your time.
Elizabeth Nerolk, we were talking about the JFK series.
Uh-huh.
There are books of it, actually. Yes, I know we're behind. Chad is busy today. It's actually a book written by Stephen King.
It's a great
book. With the same title. It's a great book. It's a dense read. I think it's got to be 1,000 pages.
It's a lot of audiobooks, I'll tell you that.
I think it's a hardcover. It's like 1,000 pages. So if you're going to read it, you got to have some time, but it's a really good read. Some great fiction. I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so I'm a little biased, but it's not horror per se.
And luckily, I can read it again because I don't remember how it ends. I don't even know how that happens. It's like, I'm like, oh, I love that. I can't wait to see the miniseries. Wait a minute, I don't remember how it ends.
Joe Maskey, 800 pages. Okay, so close to 1,000.
Oh, we got all the regulars in the house. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
He's been quiet. He's been a little quiet, just answering the occasional question here or there.
He might be painting along. He's pretty tricky.
He's sneaky.
He's a sneaky little painter.
Adriana Hernandez. Sarah, do you have a YouTube channel? I do not. This is my YouTube channel.
And you can see her craft room on the channel. We redid her craft room.
You can. And it's kind of a mess right now because I'm doing a scrapbook, baby book for a friend. She's having a baby. I'm going to the baby shower next weekend, so I'm making a scrapbook where she can just slide in pictures.
Is it a surprise? Hopefully she's not watching.
No, she's not watching. She doesn't paint or draw or anything, or so. JPC13 Art, what are the best supplies to take on a vacation when you have to pack somewhat light?
I just did a video on what I took on my trip to Denver so I could create on the plane if I wanted to. And I brought like a small like art journal and some Albright Jour watercolor crayons, a couple water brushes, and that was pretty much it. I knew realistically I wasn't going to have a ton of time, so I just made sure I could, get something done with the time I had. I find that if I pack too much, like whether I'm going to a crop or or on a trip, or the more I pack, the less I'll do.
Yep.
I actually didn't end up doing anything because when I was in Denver, I was doing art the whole time, filming for Craftsy, which, oh, by the way, in the video description, there's a link so you can sign up to win. My class will be launching soon. If you haven't signed up yet, make sure you get your name in the hat. You just click the link and you can sign up either with your Craftsy account or with Facebook, and that'll be cool. I'm really excited for this. But anyways, I didn't get much done because when I wasn't filming, I was kind of meandering around the town, searching out art supply stores and wondering who the heck was burning leaves in the middle of the city. I kept smelling burnt leaves everywhere.
Well, you certainly were smelling burnt leaves. It was just a different kind.
Honestly, it was like the last day of oh,
that's right. Oh, that's right. No wonder everyone's so relaxed.
I'm telling you, that's a friendly city. And
I've heard from other people.
Very, very friendly
city.
Very
cool, very friendly city to go.
And no, I did not partake. I did not inhale. I didn't even know what the heck it was.
You might have inhaled a little bit just walking around the street.
Well, that's true.
But that's okay. I won't tell anybody. Phyllis Mosley, Sarah, what kind of art crafts do you like to do? Well, I'm working on the surprise scrapbook right now. So I do some scrapbooking, and I do card making, and I do a little jewelry making, I do cross stitch, some embroidery. I dabble in watercolor when I can brace myself to be brave enough. I garden.
She likes to paint glass bottles in watercolor. That's her particular favorite.
Oh, God. I found that horrendous proof of that terrible, terrible, terrible class.
And we have a tutorial on that. We have a tutorial on that here on the channel, too.
I've dabbled in photography. I kind of do a little bit of everything. I garden. I cook. I don't know. Just I'm kind of whatever. I watch YouTube videos.
You're a Renaissance woman, Sarah.
Oh, is that what it is? I'm a Renaissance woman?
I think so.
Okay.
You're a Renaissance woman. I love your jewelry is my favorite. I think of the crafts that you do. I love your jewelry.
Thanks.
Very talented jewelry maker.
I actually haven't touched it in a while, but I've been working on that scrapbook, so.
Yeah. I haven't done any jewelry in a while either. And it's kind of the longer you go and you don't do something, you get kind of out of practice, and then it's like you sit down to make something, you're like, oh, this is gonna be good, and you're sitting down there, it's like, oh, this is not good.
This is not good. This is not.
This video is not making it to YouTube. I'll tell you that right now.
This is delete.
Yeah, I don't want to heap any more negative criticism.
Yeah, really. Well, I didn't do some jewelry making, but I painted some glass mason jars, like I coated them with Mod Podge and food coloring.
Yeah.
And then I made some wire wraps around the lip of them with some beads and stuff. I'm going to put them out on the deck, on the table.
Oh, pretty.
For this summer. I figure it would be cute.
I cannot wait to get these flowers out of my studio, though they really stink.
Thankfully, my nose is a little stuffy, so.
Oh. Yeah, let's say so. You got a dog laying at my feet, and the flowers are what stinks.
And she's due for a bath, so. Whew.
Too bad you don't have any lilacs. I love the smell of the lilacs, and I love to paint lilacs every year.
Well, let me know, because I have a lilac at my house.
You do?
Yep.
Oh, awesome.
I can cut some for you if you want to do one.
Oh, great. I usually have to time a trip to my parents, for lilac season. Oh, there. You can really see that the flowers are starting to take a little more shape with the layering of colored pencil. And I'm just going in with the blender just to help it a little bit. Now, I get asked a lot about spraying my work and if you should spray work and what you should use. The thing I found with colored pencils, actually with anything, it does make your colors darker, but if you're working on white paper and you're doing colored pencils, I found that spraying it with like hairspray or fixative actually makes your colors a little more vivid and takes away any wax bloom. So if you get like that waxy sheen on your paper, that can help remedy it. So just kind of file that away in case you end up with a problem like that. Now I'm just going to kind of outline some of the petals here just with this white. I really do like the white Prismacolor, except they're like the worst offenders with the breakers. My friend Lisa over at Lacari Fine Art, it's Lacari or Lacquery. I keep saying it wrong, and then I second guess myself when I say it because I don't know if I'm saying it right. But anyways, she likes the Derwent. I think it's Derwent Signature, and I have one of those, and it is really nice. So if you are looking for a nice white pencil, the Derwent, it's either Signature or Drawing. It's a really thick white opaque pencil.
Deanna Jubiati, is there a trick to using the tube watercolors versus the ones in the pans? The tube ones scare me.
You know what? My trick is I put them in a palette and I let them dry. So I'm basically using them like they're in a pan. That's how I was taught when I was a kid, and that's how I still do it today, because I found with a good quality watercolor tube, they're going to be fine to dry out in the pan. And some companies will say, no, buy our pans, don't do that to the tubes. But you got to figure, if you don't put them in the pan to dry and use them that way, you're going to waste so much. So I think there might be some ulterior motives of why companies recommend you do that. And I think one of them is because they want you to buy more paint. I mean, granted, you're going to get lots of really juicy color by squirting your paint directly out from the tube onto your palette and using it wet. But a lot of that is going in your rinse water bin and you're not even getting to use it. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with my colors not being vibrant enough, and I let them dry in the pan. Okay, so now I feel like I want a little bit of softness in this picture. So we've really defined things, and we've really added a lot of sharpness and body to our pieces. So I feel like I want like maybe some softer foliage in here because it's a little stark. I've got a soft background, and then I've got hard flowers. So I need something to kind of bridge that gap. And I'm going to go in with my number 8 round, and I'm just going to go in with water first, and I'm just going to tap in kind of some spiky petals, kind of like a chrysanthemum. And it's probably going to be hard to see until I add color to it. But also the other nice thing about the having the colored pencils on stuff is it actually locks down whatever's underneath it, so it makes a resist. So I don't have to worry too much about what's happening around here. If I splash my paint too much, it's not really going to be an issue. So now I'm going to take a little yellow ochre. I also feel like I want to warm things up a little bit because those colors are all very cool. Even though that's a pink, it's still quite a cool pink. And I'm just going to tap some of that in and let it flow around where I've wet the paper.
Benny Chavez, Lindsay, what has to happen to be able to call yourself a professional artist?
Technically, you got to make money, right? You're a professional race car driver, you make money at it, you know? That's typically your profession.
Jennifer Hopping, I have koi watercolors and they don't seem to spread out as much when I apply to wet paper. Any suggestions?
It's probably your paper. The koi is a nice student grade. I have the pan set. I don't think I've used their tube set. But you want a paper with more sizing in it. And there are inexpensive papers. And actually wood pulp papers tend to flow a little bit better because the sizing, I think, stays on top a little bit nicer. Canson Montville is one I recommend. Very inexpensive and lots of sizing. I'm trying to think if there was another one. I like the Strathmore 400 series. It's not as slippery as the Canson though. But the Canson Montville will definitely be affordable and help your paint flow a little bit better. You can also add a little bit of gum arabic into your paint or into even just your rinse water, and that will help. I'm just going to soak up that puddle there with a dry brush.
Lorraine R. Hi, Lindsay. This is kind of off topic for this demo, but have you tried your brother scan and cut yet?
I tried it yesterday. Oh my gosh, it's been sitting, and I just used it. I used it for my sister's Christmas scrapbook, right? And that was it. And that was like when I first got it, and I just didn't have time to play with it. So yesterday, I was actually recording a video, and I was using some clip art that I downloaded off Graphic Stock, and it wasn't even like really, it was like on a watercolor background, and it was a bunch of sketchy flowers. So I'm like, well, I don't think it's gonna work, but I'm just gonna try it because I had printed out 2, and I was really getting sick of cutting things out and a little lazy. And so I popped that in, and I just hit the scan button. Oh my gosh, scanned it, then I hit the cut button. I just dragged a little square around what I wanted to cut. It was crazy, and I didn't even think any of it would really cut, just because I thought, well, it's probably just a little too too detailed, but it cut beautifully. It couldn't cut all of it because there was some open areas, and there wasn't a lot of contrast on it. So, but yeah, it was really, really cool. And I was actually just searching today to see if I could find cheaper blades for it, because the blades are a little pricey. But I am still using my Cricut for cutting anything that I, do design on the computer or any fonts and stuff. So I'm just using the Scan and Cut for scanning and cutting. But yeah, very impressed. And I plan on doing just a quick little tutorial on it too this weekend. So yes, that's so funny. It's been sitting and just unloved, unused under a dust cover for months.
Well, you've been busy.
I have. It's been a
hectic month.
Yeah, it has.
Rovina Letau, can you do these techniques with regular wax pencils, or do you need special pencils?
Oh, these are just regular wax pencils. The Prismacolor is the brand, but you could use Prang, Crayola, just any waxy pencil. You could even use like a watercolor crayon or even a pastel if that's what you have. Use what you have. It's just basically layering over like an opaque color. So I just tapped in some foliage with water, and now I'm just trying to figure out where in heck I did that, so when I put the paint it can kind of flow. Just to soften things up.
JPC13 Art, have you tried the new colored pencil powder blender kit?
No, but I saw Lisa use it, and I'm very intrigued. She did some really pretty stuff with it. It's weird. It's like this powder that you know what it reminds me of? Like the translucent powder you set your makeup with.
Really?
But like you brush it over your paper, I guess, and then you can use colored pencil on it, and then you can blend the colored pencil out because it's got that.
Oh.
I
didn't even know they made such a thing.
I think it's made by an independent company. It's not like a like a go to Michael's and buy it or anything. I think it's more indie than that. But yeah, I saw Lisa use it in a demo, and it looked really cool. And then it's on the on their website. I can't remember what their website's called, like Art and Pencil or something. If anyone knows, just pop it in the chat. All right, I've kind of lost my flowers here, so I'm just gonna dab a little bit to lighten it up and give a little texture. And then I think I'm just gonna spatter on some paint, because the cool thing about using the water, whatchamacallit, colored pencils, oh my gosh, is that it's going to resist a lot of this. So I don't have to worry about it staining any of my underlayers. And it's a great way to clean up my palette too and not waste all this beautiful pigment. And of course, if you don't like this, don't do it. It's personal preference. I happen to like it, but you don't have to do that. I'm just going to see, you can blot it right off the flower because you have that nice coating of pencil there. If you want larger splots, you can get larger splots by using a larger brush. So if I want to have some nice big chunky yellow ones, see, if I use that larger brush, I'm going to get a larger splash. And then you can just blot it up if you got a little too much somewhere. And that is pretty much all there is to that. I have no idea where Sarah just got up and left a couple of seconds ago. I don't know where she's gone. So, well, I can try to look and see if there's any questions here. If you got questions, do me a solid and type them in all caps, because I have no idea where we are. An embossing question by Kel Seth. Recently bought the Texture Boutique embossing machine, and it says that it's not for dyes, but could I somehow use dyes in it? Well, if it says it's not for dyes, I wouldn't use it for dyes. It's probably not giving you enough pressure. It doesn't take as much pressure to emboss as it does to die cut. So I would say probably not, because you'd void your warranty anyway, even if it did happen to work. Do we have any other questions before we wrap this up?
Deanna Jubiati, do you think selling some watercolor note cards would be a good fundraiser? Yeah,
I sell my watercolor note cards for $7 each, and they sell very briskly at a little antiques mall that I have my stuff for sale in. So, yeah, I totally think they would. And feel free to use any of the things I've shown you on my channel on your cards for sale. I do not mind. Now, that's not the same case for everybody. Always ask beforehand, but you're more than welcome to use any tutorial you've seen on my channel to make cards for sale.
Let's see. Have you always been a vegan?
Nope, only for the last 22 years.
Only.
Oh,
God. Cheese, that's the thing, the cheese. When you had the chili with whatever the cheese product was, I was like, oh, I couldn't. Oh.
Did you try the fake cheese?
I know.
It's not that bad. It's not really cheesy, but I did make a mac and cheese, and I used canned pumpkin, and nutritional yeast, and it made a delightful cheese.
I'm sure, but the whole fake cheese thing. If I can't have real cheese, I don't want cheese at all.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Let's see. Mod Podge always stays sticky. Any suggestions?
You can spray it with a dulling spray, or you can try matte Mod Podge, or there's a new one called Chalky Finish Mod Podge, which will not be sticky. It's really nice. I like it a lot. But the glossy Mod Podge does keep a tack to it. You could you can wax over it with like a shoe wax, or like probably a shoe polish because it's a little pasty. You can kind of smooth it over there, or a paraffin wax, and then heat it with a heat gun after to make sure it all absorbs. But it's kind of the nature of the beast.
Let's see. Older and Dirt asked me about bubbles in the coloring the glass. I did not get any bubbles, but I just rolled the bottles around really well and then dried them upside down and kept rolling the paint and checking on them, and then I let them sit for 3 days before I touched them. I didn't find any bubbles. I also didn't look that hard because I'm like, well, they're going out on my back deck, so it's not a gift.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to summer. You got an awesome deck.
I know. I'm looking forward to it.
Looking forward to that pool.
Yes, just make sure you wear your shoes because the wood's extra splintery.
Yeah. I always have my feet dressed. I'm not a barefoot type of person.
Next summer, we're going to get a new deck put in.
Yeah.
Next summer. We're going to do windows this year.
Yeah, they're kind of important, especially here.
Yes.
Energy efficiency.
Let's see. I'm as caught up as I think I'm going to get. Because I've been behind all day.
That's all right.
Or I should say all show.
Well, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to pop them in the comments, and I will check that later. Please also give us a thumbs up and subscribe before you leave if you're not already a subscriber. And share these tutorials with your friends. That helps my channel grow, and I really appreciate it.
And don't forget to mention your class at this heirloom stamp show.
That's right.
This year.
That's right. If anybody is in the Massachusetts, Connecticut area at the beginning of June, it's June 3rd. That Friday, I have 2 mixed media classes, and actually I can show you the projects.
You should, because they're awesome.
I'll be teaching these 2 projects. This one here is the beginner project. You can take both classes. Each class is 2 hours long, $35, and includes all the supplies that you're going to use. With the exception, I'm going to ask everyone to bring a black and white pen, just because you can't have 20 open white gel pens or they'll just all be kaput. You have to kind of use one up at a time. So I am requiring students bring a white gel pen and a black, like a fine tip Sharpie or Micron, whatever you like. But we're going to be doing these pieces of artwork. This one's for a beginner, more relaxed pace. This one's going to be a little more brisk. But you're going to learn a ton of mixed media techniques, along with how to kind of make a recipe to how to create successful mixed media pieces. So it's not just some whimsical magic that happens when you're doing mixed media. There's actually some kind of science behind it, and I kind of give you the reasons of why some things work and some things don't. So I'd love to see you. First class is 12:30 to 2:30. The second is 3 to 5 at the Big E at the Heirloom Productions Stamp Show in West Springfield, Massachusetts. So yay! I'm so excited to get back there again this year.
You'll have to go and keep her company. I can't make it this year.
I know. I'm so bummed you can't go.
Well, okay. I'm choosing not to go. I'm choosing to support John and his one last time being in a band.
Yes, that's important. That's important. Thank you all for visiting today. Please check out our sponsor, jewelries.orima.com, for all of your art supply needs. And until next time, happy crafting.